What's up?
Hello.
Good evening, everybody, and
Good
welcome
evening.
to Marital Motivation with the Mackies. We hope everybody is having a wonderful evening.
Absolutely. We are so excited to be here to join you all again tonight. And we've got some little goodies we want to share with you again tonight. But before we get started, we're going to ask you, if you will, please hit that share button. I'm going to let my husband talk a little bit, and I'm going to do the same thing.
Y'all know we go through this every time. So let's make sure we share the podcast. Please follow us, like it, share it, send it to somebody, post it on your social media. We just want to have a conversation, just have a little fun and give you some encouragement. And we know that the Lord will bless it. We know that you will enjoy it. And right now, we just, we're thankful.
Absolutely.
We're just thankful. I'm thankful. We're thankful. God has been wonderful. We have been having a great summer. Our daughter is about to go back to school.
Wow. Junior year.
Junior year in college.
Mm-hmm.
So back to that empty nest for a few months while she's gone. So we're excited about that. What else has been going on with us, babe?
Well, we've done a little bit of traveling. I came back with COVID.
Yes, I had a work trip. We went to Florida, but she came with me for the first half. Unfortunately, when I came back 3 days after her, yes, she had COVID, which was not fun.
Nope.
But I am thankful, like I said, that my wife is well. She's right here beside me. She is beautiful. She is lovely. She is wonderful. You know I love you.
I know I love you, baby.
And for Jermaine, you see, I put that eye contact in there for you again, sir. I know how you are, so, we got to show you how it's done, young man.
Goodness. Oh, my goodness.
But the last podcast we had Evan and Keita on from Around the Island podcast.
Absolutely.
It was fun. They came down all the way from Baltimore to Atlanta, Georgia to spend some time with us, be on the podcast, and we hung out for a couple of days on the weekend, which was awesome and wonderful. So next month, we are going to have the other half,
part two
of the Around the Island podcast, joining us via Zoom, and that is going to be Jasmine and Jermaine Williams. They are wonderful. We are so excited.
And you guys are in for a treat with them. Very, very sweet couple. So you all are in for a treat.
Yes, and we are looking forward to hanging out with them as well.
Absolutely.
Yep. So tonight, we just want to we got a couple questions.
Let me set it up.
You set it up, babe.
Okay.
You set it up.
So on this past Sunday, we visited a church, and they were, instead of doing your traditional pastor, just getting up and preaching kind of thing, his topic was family business. And so he had a group of people to come up on the stage with him, and they just sat like around the coffee table and just having conversation in general about marriage, about singles, about, you name it, all of the above. So with that, it left us, I think both of us, we knew we were where we were supposed to be Sunday.
Absolutely.
And following that, we came back with a list of things that we were like, wow, that's a good topic. That's a good topic. So the thing is, as we started thinking about that, we began to think about what were some things that we broke in our marriage.
Yes. The title is You Broke What?
You broke what?
But the reason we titled that, we wanted to talk about those generational patterns.
We don't want to talk about that, do we?
Those generational behaviors. Some say generational curses. Some say generational habits. Just those generational things that we were determined to break in our lineage.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we had that conversation before together, but I don't think we really went in depth about it. So I'm going to start with you, my love. What were some things that you were determined to break?
So I'll start off I have a whole list of them.
Oh, okay.
But I'll just start with the first when I think of marriage, the very first thing that comes to mind, though, was breaking the generational curse of divorce off of my family. I come from a family, and I think we've shared this before. My parents stayed together. They were still married when my mom passed, but I'll be honest, I believe that had she lived longer, that they wouldn't have stayed married. I believe that she knew, that she was going to die. So they were together, but still, other than that, even my grandmother, who lived to be 99 years old, they didn't go through the official process of divorce, but she kicked him out. But all of my aunts, cousins, divorce. Okay, they're married. Oh yeah, but they did divorce. That's all I knew, and that's all I saw in my family, and I knew that could not be, that couldn't be my story. I knew I needed to break that.
Okay.
So that's one. Trust me, I have.
All right. Well, I'll do one, and I'll let you do another one, then I'll do another one. So for me, I think the habit that I wanted to break was probably the more family oriented, not just in marriage, but that sweeping everything under the rug. The secrets, the not dealing with issues, and just, family business is family business, or stay out of grown folks' business, or whatever you want to spin, you want to put on it. I wanted my children to understand that you can have disagreements, you can not be on the same page, but you could work through it. I'm a firm believer that if you struggled with something, you as a parent or as an adult need to teach your kids how to overcome that thing that you struggle with as early as possible, so that they don't grow up with the same issues that you grew up with. And my household was great, pleasant, wonderful, but as you become an adult, you realize that there's just stuff that just wasn't dealt with, and that was, for me, a big thing for me. I just wanted that to be different.
Yeah, I think that's typical for so many households.
Oh, absolutely.
That stuff happens, but we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to sweep it under the carpet and keep tripping over it. Generation after generation after generation, we're just going to keep tripping over it and never talk about it and never really deal with it and get to the root of things.
Yeah, and to add to that, kind of on the same page, I wanted to teach my kids how to resolve issues and be able to communicate. One thing I understand, I love my parents, but growing up as a teenager, in our culture, it was just do as I say, end of discussion. And when I became 16, it was a little bit more challenging because I had opinions, I had thoughts, and I did not know how to express them, and so that bumping of the heads was a constant thing. And I'll bring up an example. We had some issues going on within our family, and we shared it with my kids. Kids know what's going on. I don't understand. They always know. You can try and shield them, but they know. They can feel the vibe if something's not right. And we were going through some things, and my son was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Look, me and this individual are not on the same page. We are not getting along right now. But that doesn't change the fact that we are working through it. So it's not okay, we had an argument, we done, and we ain't family no more. No, it's okay, we have an issue right now. We may not be on the same page, but we can grow, we can mature, we can, work through it, because that teaches him that he can work through issues, and this culture now, this cancel culture, or I'm just done with situations. It's not good, so that was another thing.
Yeah. Well, my next one, and then I'll end mine on this one. Because I had a family full of strong Black independent women.
Mhm.
You know, and Dave, you probably guys have heard David laughing and joking before about how when he would come over to my family for events or whatever, he'd be the only man.
The only
because
one.
there was so many ladies in our family, but we didn't have very many men in our family.
Mhm.
So of course, with that, we were taught to be that strong, independent Black woman. You don't need a man. You know, and so that was the next one I was determined to break, to understand that it is okay for me to say that I need a man.
Mhm.
It's okay to say that.
Mhm.
You know, so often we've been taught, you know, you don't need a man, you don't need, you know, whatever. But I was just having a conversation with Zion, our son, recently, and I said to him, you know, son, where would you be in your life today if your father had not been present? And I told him, I said, there are so many things I can teach you, whole lot of things. I can give you information, I can teach you, but I can't teach you how to be a man. And I said, so where would your life be today if your father had not been a part of your life? So that's another one of those things I wanted to break. And that is to overcome and to accept, you know, the fact that I needed a man in my life. Doesn't change who I am. I am strong, you know, all of that. But it doesn't change the fact that I needed you in my life. Not just wanted, I needed you. Jill Scott has that song where she talks about, I love those lyrics. She was just like, you know, I can kill a spider above my head even if I'm scared. She said, but I need a man, you know, and I love the lyrics to her song, you know.
That's what's up.
Yeah, that's one of those things too I wanted to break for us and our families, you know, for at least for the women to understand it's good to have a man in your life.
And I appreciate you because you do make me feel needed. I think that's one of those things that women don't realize how detrimental to a man that vibe, that mindset of, I don't need you. I did this by myself. I secured the bag by myself. I got this job. I got this house. I can do without you. So why am I here? And then you wonder why some men are always looking on the other side. I'm not justifying it, but it contributes to it. You know, if you don't need me, why am I here? Everyone wants to feel appreciated, and your actions speak louder than your words. So if you are also saying, I don't need you, and then you are showing me I don't need you, why am I here?
See,
you know, so
well, I need you.
Hey, it's nice to be needed, and I need you too, babe. For me, the last one I would say kind of ties in to the same thing. In my family, it's pretty balanced with the men and the women. However, them Baltimore women, it ain't nothing like a Baltimore woman. Those women, I love every single one of my aunts. I do. And I believe that I have some strong men in my family. But the way them sisters would talk and fuss, I would just be like, nah, I ain't never getting married if this is what it's going to be like. But, you know, I did not want a marriage where my wife was always on my back, or my wife was fussing, or I didn't want a marriage where an overbearing wife, you know what I'm saying? I want, and not that they are that, you know, like I said, they're strong women, you know, but I wanted sweet. I wanted nurturing to be the first thing that comes to mind, you know, and I can honestly say I listen to conversations that men have sometimes, and it's like, wife this, wife that. Oh man, gotta go home, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that should not be your story. That should not be how it is. You know, you should be coming home to some love and affection, you know, and not to say that we're always on the same page, you know, but definitely not at me, you know, and aggressive and all of that. That was one thing I definitely was like, that's not going to happen if I get married. No, I'm not doing that. I ain't getting ran by nobody. My mama ran me enough as a child. I ain't getting read by nobody. So
Yeah, I've always wanted, that's been a desire. I've always wanted to create an atmosphere in our home that you wanted to come home to. You look forward to coming home to your place of peace, your place of
mhm,
rest. I couldn't, I know personally, I couldn't deal with the situation when it's always,
mm-mm.
I just could not deal with that type of atmosphere.
And
So,
you've definitely made it that way. This woman can call me and say, I miss you. And if I could leave work, this brother is gone. If she just says, come home, I want to spend time with you. If I can work it out, I'm grabbing my keys and I'm out of there, because she makes it, you make me feel needed, wanted. I feel like I'm there for you. You make me feel like I'm security for you. Everything that a man wants to feel, you make me feel. You contribute to that. So absolutely, you have made a happy home, and I'm glad to be in it.
thank you, sweetie.
Mhm. So, what's the next
Oh
question
my
we have?
goodness. Okay, so we talked about the generational patterns that we wanted to break.
Hmm.
So the next question is, did you break it?
Hmm.
And if so, how?
I would say yes. Obviously, after that last segue, um, but for me, I think it was definitely hard. Um, the sweeping the stuff under the rug situation was hard. You made the second one easy. Um, but the first one was really hard because it's all that you know. When you grow up in a situation, and if it is generational and you see that pattern is just in you, and people will say, oh, it's just easy to break stuff or just change. It's no different than when you have a child. There are certain things that you pass along your DNA. My son, I cannot deny my son for anything. We walk the same. We talk the same. We laugh the same. Everything, and it's not
Sound the same on the phone.
sound the same on the phone. We sleep in the same position, probably in the bed. You know what I'm saying?
He
It's
rocks
just
like you. It is so
there's so many
much.
things that even as a baby that I couldn't teach him, he already knew. So even in the things that we are shown in our lives, we pass that on. And so it was just so ingrained in me. Nobody's got to know. Nobody should know. And even dealing with childhood trauma just added to it because it just solidified it. It was like you don't want to expose anyone, you don't want to talk about it. So it was definitely hard. But I think the first step is identifying what the issue is, what thing that you want to change, and then moving on from there. How about you?
Yeah, I would agree that change often can be challenging, and like you were saying, especially if you're accustomed to a certain pattern, a certain way of doing things, a certain thing that's just in, a part of your DNA and who you are. So even with me, with the divorce thing of wanting to break that, I when God showed me that, brought it to my realization, the pattern, the
Mhm.
first thing, of course, all I knew to do was to pray. Because, we've shared before, how there were times we thought that we were headed
Mhm.
that way, and that's not what I wanted, but it was like feeling, what else do we do about it kind of
Mhm.
deal. So, but what I've learned to do more than anything is, like we always say, you got to go up to God. That's
Absolutely.
that stuff that you have to release. You have to put it before the Lord to say, God, here I am. What is it in me that you want to change? What is it
Mhm.
in me? What am I doing wrong? Those kind of things. And then you have to be willing to look in the mirror to see, what is it that you're doing to contribute to it,
Yep.
because again, it's in your DNA. So
Mhm.
what are you doing to contribute to what's causing issues or
Issues.
whatever what thing is that you're looking to change? So even accepting the fact that I need my husband, I can even look at it, I'll even take it from a spiritual side,
Okay.
and that is, I know that God has called me to ministry. And I know that the ministry that's on my life, I had to have the right partner in my life to be able to help push me, encourage me to do those things. Can God encourage me? Will God encourage me? Yes, and he does. He sends other people, but he also knew who I needed to get me, not just where I am, but to get to the destination of where he's taking me.
Absolutely. So yeah, I agree with all that 100. The only thing I would add is when God's going to give you instructions.
Oh yeah, step by step,
step by step, line upon line, precept upon precept. There's a step to every process. There's no process that's just a turn. You turn a key, you got to put the key in, you got to apply pressure, you got to turn. So there's always steps involved. So a lot of times we ignore the steps. We don't want to hear the steps, or we don't want to do the work. That's the hard part. Identify it, the issue, praying about it, and getting instruction from the Lord, or whether you're going to counseling, you have some people that mentor you that can show you and give you some sound advice, not some craziness, because you got to have people in your life that are for you. Absolutely. And have some wisdom. You can't, it's like when you were kids, your parents used to be like, don't be listening to your stupid little friends.
Because they know just as little as you.
They know exactly. And it's the same thing when we're adults. You can't be in a marriage for 5 years, going to somebody that's been married for 2 years, ain't been through nothing, or just got married last week, asking them for advice on how to work through some stuff. You need somebody with some wisdom that's been there, that's been through it, or a counselor or somebody, a life coach, something that can give you some steps. Identify, pray, get the steps, and then do the steps, do the work. And it ain't easy,
Yeah, because it's easy to sit back and tell somebody, this is what you need to do, but you've never been through it. You've never walked through those things. But when you've walked through it, I may not be able to tell you step by step what I can tell you what I did, and my steps may not work for you, but I can give you the wisdom to say, this still is the direction you need to go in. And then you seek the Lord concerning how you get there.
Absolutely. Seek the Lawed.
Oh, you want to spell that?
The Lawed. L-A-W.
Don't even try it.
Lawed.
Don't even try it. L-A-W-D. Did.
Let's see. Another question I wanted to propose. Okay. I can't tell. Is somebody giving us a comment?
They just saying hi.
Hey y'all.
Hey Queen.
Hey Queen.
Pearl.
Hey Aunt Pearl. I was talking about some of y'all, but
make sure you go back and catch it from the beginning.
But another question I wanted to pose was, we talked about things that we didn't want to do. What were some generational habits or things that you saw that you wanted to continue or grow or, see multiply in your relationship?
One thing for me, I know my family has always been very close.
Yes, they
very,
are.
Very close-knit family, always doing things together, so from generation to generation to generation, it was always family time, always gatherings, things like that. And that was always big for me. And I want my children, our children, to still have that interaction, with that closeness. And so that was one I was really big on. I can even recall with my sister and I growing up, whenever we would have disagreements and things, then, if we were angry and didn't want to talk to each other, then my mom would make us sit beside each other and hold hands. I thought it was cute. It was funny. I loved it. She hated it. So it was so funny to me. But but it was still to show, I don't care how angry you are with each other, you're still sisters,
still
and you're family, and that's never going to change, and nothing can break that unit. So that was one thing that was really, really, really important to me, that we were a close family.
Didn't we do that with the kids?
Yeah,
we had a shirt.
We had a big
get along shirt.
Had a big t-shirt and made the two of them get in the shirt together. So yeah, they didn't like it too much, but yeah.
That was so funny. The get along shirt.
Yeah.
For me, let's see. I would say I had a list. Some things that I wanted was it was two things. The continued love and affection that I saw my parents have throughout the years. I definitely wanted that to continue. I wanted to reproduce that, not necessarily the same way, but my parents, matter of fact, on Sunday just celebrated their anniversary, and I'm not gonna lie and say how many it is.
50 or 51? We're 25.
We're 25, so they're 50. It was their 50th wedding anniversary on Sunday.
Yeah.
And
happy
anniversary, mom and dad. And just to see how they love on one another, how you can see the sparkle there. You can just see them light up in each other's presence. I love that.
I remember when we first started hanging out and I would come over and your parents would go walking, holding hands, walking through their subdivision. They just go out for an evening stroll and they would be holding hands. And I was like, oh my goodness, look at this. I hadn't seen that. So I was like, wow, like they really do like each other.
After all those years, they do. Now, they are hilarious to me, but I've always wanted to perpetuate that. And the us against the world.
Absolutely.
My parents are united front. You can't bring no mess to them. They are on the same page. And I definitely wanted that. It's like, not the Mackies. You ain't messing with them. It was always, they were always together, and it was like, even if there was an issue, even as kids, we may not have known what the issue was, but we can always tell that mom and dad were on the same page. And I wanted to reproduce that. I definitely wanted that to be something in my marriage where it was like, nobody from the outside could come in and threaten what we had. Nobody could bring any drama to this marriage. And we would take it seriously. Nobody could bring anything to us. And I know that is why we struggled before we got married with some of those issues that we struggled with. We had somebody that was just basically lying about some things that we were doing. And we were just like, that's not what happened, how it happened, blah, blah, blah. But there was just this constant poking at the relationship. And
can I just say, I think she wanted you, but nonetheless, go on. Okay.
That ain't the case. I hope that wasn't the case. But anyway, even in that, as well as when we were praying and fasting to decide whether this marriage was going to be the marriage, there was it Tramel? I think it was Sister Tramel at our old church. I had been praying. One Sunday, she came up to me and she was like, the Lord said, you trying to hear what everybody else got to say, but you know my voice. And the Lord was like, that's your wife. And I was like, that's my boo and it's on. And I ain't never looked back. You know what I'm saying? And nobody can bring anything to me. Nobody can divide us. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter. We are one. We're two different individuals with two different dreams, hopes, visions, plans, but we're still one. And we work together and we make it happen, so that was one thing for me.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because even with the children, when it came to disciplining them, when it came to how kids would try to play one parent against the other, things
children,
like that. But I'm grateful. We've always been that united front, even if something was going on, I'd be like, okay, but what did your daddy say? That kind of thing, just being that united front. So yeah, I appreciate that. I'm going to take a slight spin on what you just talked about. That was you just talked about what you did want. And so I'm going to take a spin on that, not just on what I wanted, but how did God tell me to treat you as my husband? How did God want me to see you? And to treat you as my spouse. And so, one of the things, even in thinking about that is, how when you first get a brand new car and you all excited, you want to go
Mhm.
outside and spit shine it, use your elbow to clean it up and all
Clean
of
the
those
whip.
things.
Mhm.
I love, that, but after time passes and the car begins to get a little older, God forbid, a little dent here or accident or whatever,
You describing me?
no, just
Okay,
listen to
I'm
what
just
I'm
making
saying.
sure. All right.
Listen to what I'm saying. So after a while, sometimes we just don't take, the same care for a used car like we do a used car once it starts getting a little older,
Mhm.
but do we ever take time to consider that eventually that car is going to become a classic? And when you see car shows and we see all these classic old cars, everybody's oohing and awing
Mhm.
off of how wonderful these classic cars are. But these are the ones that were taken care of. Somebody took care of that car from the time it was little, young, or new
Mhm.
until it had gotten older. So no, I'm not comparing you to a classic car, but I am saying
I'm just saying, old, dented up.
I'm
I'm
not
like,
comparing
dog.
you to the car, but what I'm saying, I want to always honor you
Mhm.
the same way today, tomorrow, my future. I want to still have that same love, that same respect, that same honor for you that I did when we first started dating. I always want to still be able to get butterflies
Mhm.
when I know that my husband is coming around. I don't want, like you talked about earlier, I don't want to be in that place of, I want to be excited when my husband comes,
Mhm.
and I want to treat you like that. I do. That's one of my prayers that I consistently pray in our marriage, that this doesn't become old, that we continue to have fun, we continue to honor each other, and that I know that one day you're going to be my sexy classic. You already got the little silver sparkles and stuff right there. Just
Here
letting
she
me
go.
know, that
Mhm.
distinguished gentleman look that you got going on right there. But I do. I want to continue to honor you through it all, to know that you're one day going to be my classic.
Yeah. I'm with you on that though, babe. I am. I'm with you on that because same, it's kind of like the same thought that I had when you just posed the question. It's like I can honestly say there with everybody, but there have been times where I did not treat you the way God told me to treat you, and for that I apologize and I always will, but one thing that I definitely understand is that goes back to Ephesians. I love that scripture. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. And God told me to be a steward of your heart, to be a steward of your mind, to be a steward of everything that is you, and that encompasses you, because that's my job. It's God's job, but as the head of the house and your husband, it is also my job to make sure your heart is right, to make sure your soul is right, to make sure your mind is right, and not to abuse any of that, but to only nurture it like God nurtures us. And God nurtures the church, and God wants to see the church delivered and grow and in freedom and blossom and multiply. And I want to see everything about you be the same. I want to see everything about you be wonderful. I want to see all your dreams come true, your visions come true. I want your heart to just be full of joy as much as possible. And I know there will be ups and there will be downs, but that's how God told me to treat you, to be a steward. You are a jewel, and you're mine. And I'm thankful that I have you for the time that I have you on this side of eternity, but that is my number one. God said, treat you like the jewel that you are and be a good steward. And I'm like, yes, sir. I Captain, yeah, Lord, whatever, what I'm saying? But in all seriousness, to treat you that way.
And I appreciate that, because you do. I think that I used to, it was so funny. I mean, it's funny that I would get offended by it almost when people would meet us, or
Please
people would
expound.
see us, that people would be like, oh my goodness, he loves you so much. And I would be like, well, y'all do know I love him too, right? Like, you can't see that I do love my husband as well, but it was one of those things that the Lord showed me. Typically, a woman's love is visible. A woman's love is so often seen, like, when you see couples, when that girl loves that man, it. But a man can just kind of be like chill with her, and you're like, yeah, I mean, they together, and I think he does love her, but it's not just this visible, obvious love.
Okay.
And so with you, when people would see us and everybody's be like, oh my goodness, he loves her, I had to learn, instead of being offended by that, I had to stop and really say, wow, God, you gave me a man that just is visible. And I'm not just talking about what Zion used to say, don't publicly display.
Public displays of affection.
Yeah. And I'm not even saying that, but I'm just simply saying, the fact that the way you treat me, that when people meet me and they see me, you remember our friend Nikki was even just David. I called David on the phone one time, and he simply was like, I was on speakerphone. It was a work call, and it's all David would say, hey, sweetie, oh my goodness, do you need me to leave the room? And I was like, all he said was, hey.
Hey, but it'd be a whole lot in that. Hey. Like, what's up, honey?
See, but that's what I mean. But so you do. So I can say this. You have been obedient to what God has told you to do. And I appreciate that. I do. I appreciate that.
Was that your earring?
That was my earring. It got excited too. It's all good.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm trying to think. That's funny. I've heard you say that you were offended by it. I never kind of knew how to take it, but I get what you're saying now, because I'm like, that makes no sense to me, but I get it, so I'm just glad that we really listen to God. Without the Lord, without God, your marriage is not going to flourish. It's not going to grow. It's not going to be what it should be or could be, without the obedience to what God says and going up and praying and then following the instructions. It's like a little kid. You tell a little kid what to do sometimes, and they want to kick and scream and, have a temper tantrum. And as adults, we do the same thing. Lord, you know my heart. This is what they did to me, But one thing I heard somebody say once, God does not ever deal with what they did. He deals with what you did and how you handled it and what you can do to be free. Not, oh yeah, my sister over here did this. It's like God is like you, and he's going to deal with you. One more thing. I think we have one more question on the list. Let me see what I had. What do I have? Oh, Evan posed this question on the last podcast that we had, and he said, how important is it to put love on your words when you're communicating with your spouse? So I thought it was a great statement. That brother don't realize the nuggets he drops. He really does. But I wanted to take a little bit further. Not just is it important to love, but how important or how often do you filter your conversation through God or the word of God, or how often do you filter your conversation through that?
Personally, with me, I am one that filters. I filter. A lot of times, even when I'm talking, my thoughts are delayed because I'm filtering. Okay. My conversation is delayed because I have to get things to go through this whole process. Is it worth saying it? Does it need to be said? Okay. Is it going to benefit me or anybody else if it's said? Is God going to be glorified if it's said? I typically would go through a process, all of that in my head before I allow words to come out of my mouth, because I am really big on believing once you put words out,
That's it.
You can't take them back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it goes from heart to heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that also goes even with the things that we can, the Bible says you have what you speak.
Mm-hmm.
So am I going to speak death over my marriage? Am I going to speak, healing? Am I going to speak love? What am I going to speak over my marriage? And so with that, I am one that's going to filter. So even in a conversation, and I know we've talked about this before too,
several times,
even in disagreements, whether it's with spouse or with anybody, when you're angry and when you're just wanting to make your point and you're just trying to say what you're trying to say, a lot of times hurtful things are said, but because it's not filtered. And I'm a firm believer that, as the word says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So when we say, oh, God knows my heart, he does, because he hears what comes out of your mouth. He does. You're absolutely right, because he hears what comes out of your mouth. So yes, I am very, very big on filtering.
Okay. For me, I will say definitely stages for me, because of my upbringing. I feel like I never said anything. I just went along. And when I truly got into my older years, 20, I'll say 25, 30. I say older because I just feel like I'm old. I've been on my own since I was 17, So as I got older, I said what I wanted to say because I felt like I was never heard. So I didn't filter. I thought it, I said it, And then as I have grown in God, I started filtering more and more. And I feel like it's still a process, because there's that battle sometimes of, this is what I want to know. They about to get this. And then it's like, but that ain't what a shepherd do. That ain't what a son of God does. That is not what a husband does. That's not what Christ does. I'm like, all right, Lord, I hear you. So that's something that I'll continue to work on. But yeah, I try to filter my words, but I'll be honest, sometimes it's not the first thought. My first thought is to retaliate, to defend, to, an attack, versus the opposite. And I'm being real honest right now. That's something that I'm constantly praying about, Lord, word my mouth, Lord, touch my heart, because I know that, I'm a shepherd. I can't be cutting on the sheep. I'm a husband. I can't be cutting on my wife. I can't be tearing you down. Like I said before, I got to be lifting you up. I got to be, the tool and the vessel that God has for me to be, to help push people into their growth and their deliverance and their freedom, so everybody's got their issue. And I would probably say that's probably my number one, is just filtering my words, and even the thoughts, because you think it, and then you got to go back and repent for even thinking it. So, I'll constantly praying, God, change my heart,
Yeah. And I can't even tell you how I got to that point, because, too, growing up, I also grew up in a household that, where children were seen and not heard, kind of deal, that phrase. So we weren't given the liberty to just speak and just to say and, different things. We weren't given that opportunity growing up. But nonetheless, I think because I don't know where that came from. I'm learning
you've always been a sweet person. Even through childhood, you were taught to just listen to your conversations. You were the peacemaker. Yeah. So then I see it, why.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I'm learning more and more that who we are today is been processed through what we've gone through childhood, what we've gone through in our life, all of that. It took all of that to make us who we are today.
Yes.
So I know that there was something, through the process. I don't know, I'm about to ask the Lord about that. There's been something through the process that brought me to that. And then maybe from that, I'll be able to say, this is how you get to that point,
Okay.
So that's
All
a
right.
thought.
Well, I think that's it.
You think that's it?
I think that's it, y'all. I'm done with my questions.
Yeah, I think that was good.
I think that was good as well.
Good.
I hope that y'all enjoyed it. Hey to everybody in the comments. I see the likes and the smiley faces and the hearts and all that good stuff.
At you, all of that stuff.
And, okay. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are grateful. We're honored. We're humbled. We appreciate you tuning in. Share it. Share the podcast, please. Share the page, please. You can follow us on Facebook, obviously, and YouTube for the live stream, but we're on TikTok. Our podcast is on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio.
Did y'all hear that? He said on Spotify.
On Spotify. Everybody got Spotify. So we just want to be a blessing. We just want our love to help somebody else love a little bit better. I'm learning to allow things that we've gone through, to turn that into our passion, to turn that into our, to be able to help somebody else. I love and I love being married. And I know so many singles that desire to be married, but I'm like, what is it that you're really desiring? What is it? Because if you only knew what really goes on behind the scenes before you see certain things in a marriage, what are you really desiring? So with all of that, I just want us to be able to help people, to know that you really can have a good, happy marriage. Absolutely. And I want men to understand that, because we talked about that a few podcasts back, the whole fantasies versus reality thing about marriage. And most men are not taught that marriage is wonderful. Men are not taught that marriage is amazing and it's a blessing and you get so much joy. We're taught the opposite of that. Run, right. We're taught to run, and all these other things. But there is no love like the love of a wife that's there for you, a godly woman. There ain't nothing like it. There is no feeling like having your kids and just looking at them and watching them grow, and that'll probably be something we'll talk about soon. We'll probably do a parenting episode, how to keep the spark alive when you have kids, Send them off to college. Okay, I'm just joking. It's some no, she ain't joking. She is not joking. Before then, but I'm just saying. We're going to talk about dealing with family in your business, in a marriage, or how not to have your family in your marriage. We want to talk about singles. Yeah, singles on. We're reaching out to a couple couples and a couple people that we would like to bring on, because it's not all just about us. It's about seeing different points of views and how people have grown and matured and their experience and how they navigated it, because we ain't got all the answers. Only the Lord got all the answers. I'm gonna stop saying Lord like that. Thank you. He's looking at you like, who you talking to? Okay. My name is Lord, not Lord. But so just to have an opportunity to minister to some singles, like I said, bring some singles on and let's talk about that. And it's just a lot. Any topics you all want to hear, please message us some topics. Let us know. Like I said, because you guys give us some really good feedback as well, and we appreciate that. Email us. The email address is right there on the screen under the tag. Yeah, because she don't know it. Yes, I do. It's Mackie Marital Motivation @gmail.com. That's why I have the glasses on. So send us some questions. Send us some topics. Just email them to us. Send us a message on Messenger, whatever. We ain't going to put your business out on the street. We ain't going to be like, such and such asked this question and put you on blast. That ain't how we do. So please don't be scared, because guess what? Somebody else got that same question and they're just waiting for somebody else to ask it. So send us some topics, y'all. We'll talk about anything. We good?
We are wonderful.
Awesome. So y'all have a wonderful night, a blessed night.
As always, we appreciate you all. Thank you for sticking in there with us. We appreciate it. And we look forward to talking with you again next month.
And I'm going to try and do this. I'm going to leave it for her because I can't see that far. There we go. We'll see. She got me. We'll see y'all later. Okay. She's going to talk about me, but y'all have a wonderful night. God bless you. We love you. Have a good one.
Good night.